Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about how to play from behind. Now there are going to be four main points that I want to discuss, and there's also going to be something special at the end of this video, so make sure you stay tuned. Otherwise, let's jump into it. The first point is all about trading. Trading objectives, trading kills, trading pressure, trading sides of the map. The reason that it's so important to look to trade when you are behind is so that their lead actually decreases. Now when we say trade, it sounds like things are going evenly, right? But let's say you are 5k down at 15 minutes. That would be a really tough game state. But if you're trading diligently, you're giving them objectives and pressure, and then you're pressuring on the other side of the map and doing your own thing. At 30 minutes, if you're still only down 5k, that percentage gold difference is going to be much less. And so you've effectively made a comeback. It is expected for the team that is ahead to win more and snowball the game. And if you can put a stopper in that and trade appropriately, then you're going to be in a great spot. Now, the second main reason that you want to look to trade is because it's unlikely that you're going to be able to contest their strong side and what they want to do anyway. Now, this is going to be a good example of that. Let's just take stock of what's happening here. They're ahead. They have an insanely fed Irelia who is right here for the upcoming dragon, which is going to be spawning, and they have vision control, and we're just not in a spot like whatsoever to contest this. And so a lot of times what could happen is red team, I'm the Rel here, red team could try to contest, and then they're just going to die, and then the game is just going to slip out of their control completely. Or what could happen oftentimes, red team would just kind of like awkwardly hover around this area and then realize too late that this just isn't contestable regardless. And so obviously both of those situations not really optimal. We want to be able to do something. We want to be proactive even though we are behind. Let us trade. Let us create a source of pressure elsewhere on the map. So they're going to pressure bot side river here, and what I want to do here is I'm going to look to move towards top side here. And so, okay, they get bot river and dragon, fine. Let's get mid wave, let's get top river, a lot better than nothing. And so this trade-in isn't going to be extravagant every time. It's not like you're going to give one objective and you're going to get another objective. Sometimes it's just going to be accepting a small win. And that small win in this situation is going to be let's sack dragon, let's sack bot river, and let's get mid prio, and let's control top river. And the way that you could visualize this is creating a pressure seesaw. They pressure on one side. You need to create some pressure somewhere else so that they have to react to it. Because if they are constantly in the driver's seat, they're pressuring, you're reacting, then they just go to the next area to pressure, and you're just going to slowly bleed out. You're going to just watch them take the entire map and snowball without putting up too much of a fight. So we're just going to play the situation out a little bit. Let's go back into normal view. First, I want to put on their vision. And so they see that they're going to lose midwave, and they see that the Baron vision is getting cleared out. And so they might have to respect the Baron getting burst down, or they might have to just respect top river in general. And so what they might have to do is, shove midwave and then eventually try and retake top river. And that's all going to be time that they have to invest to relieve pressure where we generated it. And so in order to do this point well, you need to be able to plan ahead and see that you are behind, see that you're not going to be able to contest an objective, and then look to, make a plan to trade sides of the map, to trade objectives, to trade pressure, to trade kills, whatever. The next point is be creative. So when you're ahead, you can tick the boxes to win, but when you're behind, it's not always as simple. So just pretend that you guys are ahead in a game, and you can take consistently high percentage chances for plays to succeed. So you can take an 80-20, and you can take an 80-20, and you can take another 80-20, and you're just going to slowly win the game. If you're behind and you're waiting for an 80-20 to come your way, you might be waiting for the entire game, and then your nexus just explodes. And so sometimes you're going to need to be creative. You're going to need to sometimes take that 50-50. You're going to need to cheat some tempo or be opportunistic. And so for the example here, we are red team. This is my Smurf. I am Talia support, and we are, we've just lost our mid tower. We just kind of got aced. And so what's going to happen is, if we're just making the safe and the correct play, what we could do is just, shove out this wave and then, slowly try to take control of a quadrant. Maybe we'd give dragon, maybe we'd set up topside, whatever. But I'm not interested in that. I want to be creative. I really want to try and find a way back into the game. And so what I know, even though we have no vision on this side of the map whatsoever, is that Jinx could be quite likely to be greeting for our red buff, which just spawned here. And so I have no information whatsoever, but I'm going to be opportunistic. I'm just going to ult. I'm going to sprint here. I'm going to ult here immediately. And it turns out that she is here, and then we get a kill. And this could be the window back into a game like this. We just killed their ADC. They had a bounty, so I collected a bounty. Maybe this affords us a dragon where we can just win a team fight there, and you never know. And so it's easy to say this when you're playing a support like Talia, right? You can just kind of ult and really easily cheat tempo and look for a pick. Let's have a look at another example on a different champ. All right, so in this game, we are Rel instead, and we're on the main. We are really, really far behind with 20 kills to 5. We're down 7k pre 20 minutes, but they're always winnable. And let's have a look at what a creative pick can also look like. And so what's going to happen here is I recognize that we can't really get mid prior. And so I want to instead, be creative. I want to stay in fog. So I'm going to put a pink. I saw a ward here. I'm going to activate my sweeper. I'm going to hug this side of the wall. I'm going to dodge a potential vision around here. And I know that Gragas used his flash in an earlier skirmish. I believe around one of these fights here, he used his flash. I know he doesn't have flash. And so I'm being creative, right? I'm looking for an opportunity to potentially find a pick. And so that's exactly what's going to happen. We see Gragas here. I'm being creative. And then we jump into the Gragas. We get a kill there. Amazing. We even get a shutdown. And so this isn't going to happen if I just tick the boxes again. And let's just look at it from their perspective quickly. So they see me briefly there, but then they don't see me. They don't see me. I successfully dodge a ward around here. And then I sneak around here, and then he just kind of gets jumped on. So this could be any number of things, right? It could be cheating tempo. It could be camping a bush. It could be hovering in fog. We're going to have a look at one more example. And so we're back in that game with the Fed Irelia, and this is going to be an example where nothing actually happens, but it's a concept that is important. So what's going to happen here is we're just going to lose the skirmish. I'm just going to speed this up a little bit. And so we almost get aced. And so what's going to happen now is their win con, their super Fed Irelia is going to move towards top side. I know that I don't just want to hang around mid and achieve nothing. It's going to be very hard to get mid prior with this map state. It's going to be almost impossible to siege mid tower. So I'm going to be creative. I want to look for a pick on bot side of the map. And so we could definitely expect their Lissandra to potentially path bot from base after that skirmish and then, try to farm bot side. So my jungle's on bot side, my Cassidon's on bot side there. Irelia briefly showed top side. And so I'm being creative, right? I'm not just kind of sitting around mid, watching them get mid prior and slowly bleed us out. Now, unfortunately, what happened is this bush was warded and their Liss paths topside from base and the Irelia came back down bot. So it's not always going to work, right? And that's to be expected. These creative opportunities, they're not always going to work. You just want to look out for them. I wanted to show a pretty fun example from pro play. And so most of you may have heard of the famous Fnatic bush where they camp a bush, it becomes a death bush, and then they just look to pick. And they did that, in the early seasons of pro play, camping particularly one of these, side bushes when they're behind or even when they're even to look for a creative way back into the game. I wanted to find a little bit more of a modern example. And so what's going to happen in this situation is they're actually going to camp in an Ivan bush, which is even more creative. And they're evidently quite far behind. And if they just tick the boxes, they're probably going to slowly bleed out, right? But they're creative here, and they find a pick, and they find 2 picks, and so awesome. Moving on to the third point, which is bounties. Now, bounties exist as a comeback mechanic, right? Right, want bounties to exist so that teams can potentially come back into the game. And so whenever there are kill bounties, that is always a target on the enemy's head for you to potentially make a comeback. Now, with the introduction of objective bounties, every game has felt winnable personally. And so this kind of ties into the, trading objectives as well. If you can concede one objective and get another and get that objective bounty, not only are you decreasing the percentage lead, but you're actually, decreasing the absolute lead as well. And you're really making a comeback. So sometimes if you see a carry with, a 900, 800, or even a 1k gold shutdown, you can really commit hard into killing them. Even if you trade 1 for 1, absolutely amazing. Even if you trade 2 for 1, then that could even be really good as well. And this is something that players in solo queue notoriously struggle with. If they have a bounty, they're still going to be flashing forwards to overcommit for kills. Sometimes they're going to take a flashy 1 for 1 and really just throw the entire game. So what we're going to see here, we're going to go back into this game where we found that creative pick with Rel, but we're going to pay attention to bounties instead, okay? 600 bounty on Aatrox, 400 on Twitch, 150 extra on Gragas. This is all obviously on top of the 300 kill gold. So we're going to speed through a little bit here. We're going to collect the kill bounty onto Gragas. We're going to speed it up a little bit. Nothing's going to happen here. And then we're going to get an objective bounty from the dragon. So that's more gold. And then eventually they're going to move towards the top side of the map. They're going to start Baron. There's going to be a coin flip on the Baron. And we end up winning the coin flip. And so then we get that, obviously the Baron goal, but also that huge objective bounty as well. And then we're going to collect that bounty. We're going to collect that bounty. Speed it up a little bit. And eventually we're going to collect this bounty as well. And now, in the span of 2 minutes, it has been a 7,000 gold shift in our favor. Now the game is obviously extremely winnable. Now I want to introduce a balance here. We don't always want to focus on collecting a bounty. You know, sometimes we're going to want to find that pick on that Fed member and collect the bounty. Other times we're going to want to just stay away from that Fed member and try to achieve something away from them. Remember that game where they had that really Fed Irelia? Do you think that it's likely that we can look to pick her and collect that big bounty, or would it be more appropriate to try and team fight away from her? In another situation, maybe they have a Fed ADC or a Fed Mage and they're kind of isolated on the side lane, and then that would be much easier to try and pick them. What does the Fed enemy member want to do? Do they want to split push? Do they want to team fight? And also another layer of complexity, what do our champs want to do? Can we even find a pick reliably on the side lane, or do we have more of a team fighting comp? And so it's never going to be black and white. This game is very complex. Just keep in mind that either way, we need to think about what the best play might be. Now, the last point that I want to talk about today is keep your cool. Recognize that falling behind happens. The game is winnable no matter how badly you want to FF. And this is a type of skill that you want to develop. You want to be comfortable with not being able to have complete control of the map, to have tempo over your opponent. You can sack prior, you can avoid bushes, you can make it tricky for the enemy team to close out. And sometimes playing from behind, you don't have to change your approach to the game much. You can do what you know and play to your win con. Now, some of the creative examples that I did show, they were on, you know, playmaking and engaging champs who needs to find that proactive window. If you have a more slow front-to-back scaling team comp, then oftentimes your win con is to be disciplined and find those favorable front-to-back fights. And we just need to be able to recognize that the enemy team is more than capable of throwing. If we just stay disciplined, you know, they could throw at Baron, they could just overextend and get bored. So we're just going to have a look at a quick example here, but I'm sure you can, you know, inject any of your solo queue games into this situation. I'm playing the Lux here. We have a front-to-back team fight. You know, we have the Seraphine and the Lux with a really easy front line to use our spells off of. And then the enemy team is just going to get bored and just start to commit really deep. And obviously, you know, we're really far behind in this game as well. And then, you know, we get a bunch of kills. We get a shutdown here or there. And this is just playing to our comp, right? We're not necessarily doing anything special. And so this is just going to be a balance that we have to, you know, come to terms with. On the one hand, should we look to be creative? Or on the other hand, should we look to remain as disciplined as possible? And for the most part, what should inform your decision between this balance here is what your identity is, what your champ, what your comp wants to do. You need to recognize that playing from behind is a skill, and the better that you get at developing this skill, the higher you will climb. Sometimes people just, they want to be the center of the universe, right? They want to be the carry, and if they start falling behind, then they just get in their heads and they tilt and they're like, I don't deserve to win this game anyway, or my team doesn't deserve to win this game. It's a skill to be able to keep your composure, to minimize, to stay disciplined, and you know, to force the enemy team to close it out properly, which oftentimes they won't. I believe that the greatest competitors are not those who dominate every single game, but those who are tough to defeat, who are gritty and resilient. I want to picture a hypothetical scenario quickly. So let's say that you find a few kills when you're really far behind, Baron is on the map, and you think that coin flipping this Baron objective is your best bet at coming back into the game. Sometimes that is the case. You will get that Baron buff, you get a lot of money, you'll start to knock off some objective bounties, and that's your comeback. Some other times, that Baron is just going to doom your team to an instant loss. And this is something that I have felt in a lot of my games, where a team just reflexively wants to go to Baron when they're behind, and then they just instantly lose the game. League is a complex game. Finding a way to win from behind is even more difficult, and so we just need to keep our emotions in check, and that's going to go a long way in playing from behind. So for those of you who don't know, I spent December exploring the South Island of New Zealand, which is where I live, and I thought it would be fun to show you all some of my beautiful country over here. So for the first day of my trip, I drove down across the North Island, and then I took the ferry along with my car across towards the South Island. And so here's just a little bit of footage leaving the North Island, and then entering Picton around the South Island. Obviously beautiful scenery here. And then I drove down across the South Island and towards Christchurch for the first day. Now for the second day, I can finally start exploring, and this is going to be a very long day. We started off with Lake Tekapo. This wasn't planned, but I saw beautiful water and this is just an amazing spot, so I decided to check it out. I also wanted to do a hike, and so I ended up hiking up here by Lake Tekapo. Now I challenged myself to run down every mountain that I climbed on my trip, and so for this one I was fresh and I was running really fast, and so this was the first time that I ever felt my feet getting hot from running, and so I felt like the road runner, which I thought was pretty funny. But then afterwards I wanted to head over towards Hooker Valley, and this is all in the same day, so it's going to be a very early start. We started around 7 a.m. on the second day, and the day ends up finishing around 9 p.m. So some more beautiful lake scenery. This was on the drive towards Hooker Valley, and honestly Hooker Valley was a great walk, but the scenery driving towards there was magnificent. It was even better than the actual hike. So here I'm just about getting to Hooker Valley, the track. And this is a really popular tourist destination. So when I did the walk, even though it was quite late in the day, I think it was around 6-7 p.m. There was still a lot of people there. I enjoyed saying hi to all the tourists, and it was also really cold, so this gave me some motivation to complete the run as fast as possible so I could finish off the day. Thanks for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed. Big thank you to all of my Patreons over here. I really couldn't do this without you. The links for coaching, for Patreon, for my school support Discord server, for socials, they're all going to be linked in the description below. Any and all support is greatly appreciated.